What's up team? My name is Major Mance and this is all about continents. Today's episode is going to be Europe Part 1.
Continents, do you know your continents? Asia, Africa, North and South America, Europe, Antarctica, Australia too.
Now if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, like and share with all your friends because my channel is all about caring, fun and learning about the weird and wonderful. Now Europe is an amazing landmass, which actually according to the future predictions of Pangea Ultima, in the near future, if you call 250 million years into the future near, it may be the next North Pole. So Europeans, grab your coats because in 250 million years into the future, it's gonna get cold. But that is where Europe will be in the future. Let's talk about where Europe is now. Europe is in the northern hemisphere, mostly in the eastern hemisphere, and it is over the Eurasian tectonic plates. Atlantic Ocean to the west, Arctic Ocean to the north, the Mediterranean to the south, the Black and Caspian Sea to the southeast, and, wait for it, the Asian continent to the east, which is weird in my books, but we'll get into that later in this video. The population of Europe, with covering about 7% of the world with landmass, which is 10.18 million kilometers squared big, it has a population of about 743 million people. It makes it the third most largest, which isn't really great if you think about it, because Antarctica is inhabited and Australia is practically a country. It's not very impressive. Moving on swiftly, Europe, the name Europe, where did it come from? Why is it here? Europe was actually given by the Greek. It was named after the Phoenician princess called Europa. Europe has 50 sovereign states with 6 limited recognition states, and it has 28 in the 28 of which are in the European Union and 47 in the Council of Europe. Anyways, the flag of Europe. The European flag has been used since the 1955s to represent Europe. The European flag has a blue background with 12 golden stars in a circle. Europe claimed that this flag represents the unity, the solidarity and the harmony among the people of Europe. However, they don't have any particular reason for the number of 12 stars. So I was curious. And well, in ancient symbology, the number 12 stands for completeness and perfection, which is probably the reason for the number of 12 stars. However, it can't just be correlated. So I thought, let me research it further, and I found that actually the people who designed the flag meant the 12 stars to be a reference to the woman of Revelation, with whom Rome believes to be Virgin Mary, and the blue background to be the color of Mary. Finally, let's get into the distinction between Europe and Asia and finally resolve this. Now, the physical distinction that we know today is from the Atlantic Ocean to the Mediterranean Sea, and now it runs across the Ural Mountains and rivers, which is in Russia, to the Caspian Sea, and from the Caspian Sea to the Black Sea through Georgia. From the Black Sea, it goes to the Aegean Sea through the Turkish Strait, and which is attached to the Mediterranean Sea. Why and how is this difference made between Europe and Asia, and why is it so illegally separated as two continents rather than one? Well, I'm going to answer that question for you. Europe and Asia, the problem started way back in time when you cannot, to draw a map was to walk and draw. Yeah, walk and draw. They never had the Google cars back then. They didn't have satellites, so the only way to actually draw maps was to walk and draw. And those people were called cartographers, and the famous cartographers of those times were the Greek. Now the Greek liked to be a bit self-centered. They made the maps around them. I mean, actually, who didn't make the maps around them? Nonetheless, they made the maps around them because their trade was around the Black Sea. They had Europe is to the west, Asia to the east, Libya to the south. A man came along named Herodotus who actually tried to fix it, discovered that Europe and Asia were attached rather than detached. The Greek actually never listened, and they were like, nah, you know, we're actually comfortable with this whole map we have right now, keeping Europe and Asia as two separate entities. And so since then, it's been like that. And the medieval times when things could have changed but didn't, because they had this famous TO symbol representing Europe, Asia and Libya, which they just preferred for some reason. And more attempts were made, but nothing prevailed. So this brings us to this time when now there's a massive political difference and cultural difference between Europe and Asia, and it just seems that all hope is lost. But there are countries which actually have to suffer this difference, such as those transcontinental countries and those countries with limited recognition. Some of the transcontinental countries include Turkey, Azerbaijan, Russia, Kazakhstan and Georgia. Cyprus is one of them, and it's just a bit of a tug of war and a bit of a mess between Europe and Asia for those countries. Nonetheless, I'm telling you about this because the amount of countries in Europe can be considered from about 44 countries to 64 countries. So that is why when I said that Europe has 50 countries, that is the generally accepted amount of countries within Europe. And this brings us to the end of part 1. Now today, we learned about the basics of Europe, and we moved on to learning about the flag of Europe. And lastly, we actually got to knowing the reason behind why and how Europe and Asia are separated as two continents. Thank you so much for watching my video. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe and click that button, like and share with all your friends so they can get to find out all the weird and the wonderful. And once again, thank you so much for watching. You don't know how much this means to me. I'll see you guys in the next video. Major out.